Perfect. Okay, I think we can probably go ahead and get started. So welcome everybody to the July edition of the Multimodal Accessibility Advisory Council. I'm Karthik Balasubramanian, the chair. We are a voice for folks with sorry, I just got off a plane. Voice for of people with disabilities for improving the city's transportation network, specifically to help folks get around safely, reliably, affordably, and accessibly. As I mentioned, I'm Karthik. I live in Ward 6 and work in Ward 1, and I have an eye condition called macular degeneration, which makes it hard for me to see details, and it also makes me unable to drive. So I will pass it over to Kelly.
Hi there. I am also a person with a disability. I've used a wheelchair for most of my life, and I live in DC, and I also do not drive. And it's always a pleasure to be here and talk about these issues. Problem solve.
Hey everyone, my name is Lizzie. I also identify as a person with a disability and am a DC resident, not for long though. So today represents my last day as a member of this committee, and it's been a real honor. And Kelly and Karthik, a huge shout out to you. You've just both been tremendous, and I'm in awe of your superpowers and just tenacity. So thank you for leading us in so many ways. And I know that we will not be strangers. So I think with that, did I see Zach on? If so, I'll popcorn it over to you, Zach.
All right. Thanks, everyone. This is Zach Smith, District Department of Transportation Liaison to the MAC, and I will pass it to my colleague, Jamie.
Hi, everybody. My name is Jamie Carrington, and I'm the Bus Priority Branch Manager, which is part of the Capital Planning Division here at DDOT. And yeah, very happy to be here and ready to talk a little bit about bus priority and the whole world of buses.
Awesome. Sounds great. So I think we've gotten everybody. Do also want to 100% shout out Lizzie for all of her contributions. We're definitely going to miss you. And if you end up coming back here, there's always a place for you on the Mac.
Thank you. Thank you.
So yes, Jamie, we'll turn to you. We've got, I'm hoping that this can be kind of more of a discussion. We've been kind of incubating this concept of a time tax that I think will be useful in framing. I mean, your work is, you're our favorite branch in the at DDOT. So we want to figure out how to advocate for your advocate for your work. So yeah, if you can go ahead and take over, we can have a discussion from here.
Great. Well, yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, and I think that we can get a little bit more into the transit, the time tax concept later. I just wanted to give a quick kind of overview if I can take over. Hold on. There we go.
Hey, Jamie, sorry to interrupt you, but Karthik, I'm getting a message from Sal that he does not have today's meeting link. So I don't know if maybe you or Neo, if Neo's on, if they could check.
Yep.
Okay, awesome. Sorry, Jamie.
Cool. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so hopefully that's coming through. Yes, so yeah, so I know that a lot of you folks are familiar with our program and a lot of our individual projects. I know that we definitely have heard from many of you on our specific projects, but just wanted to kind of take a high-level view of things. So our program overview, we have a pretty simple goal, and that's to improve bus speeds and reliability for riders across 8 wards. And obviously that's something that is tied directly to some of those issues of that transit time tax and ensuring that people who aren't driving still have solid options for connecting with opportunities and day-to-day life. So for our toolbox, even though our most visible elements are always going to be our red carpet bus lanes, that's not always the right tool for the job, and it's usually a mix of different treatments that we like to develop one project at a time. So that can include bus lanes, queue jumps for buses to get in front of the rest of traffic, curb extensions, bulb outs, so to make it more accessible to board the bus and get off the bus, and transit signal priority, which is kind of our, which is always hard to visualize because it's just happening behind the scenes inside a signal controller cabinet and kind of in the electronic sphere. But that's something that also helps to nudge things along. So as far as our completed projects go, so we've got a bit over 13 miles of bus lanes completed so far, and we've got projects all around the city. And I think the one thing that's great about our program is that with every project, we're learning a little bit more about what works, what doesn't, what are the challenges, what are the things we need to rethink a little bit the next time around. And fortunately, because the scope of our projects is usually in this kind of what we would call a medium build space. So it's not the kind of huge mega projects like reconstructing Dave Thomas Circle or things like that that can take years and really a lot of money, but it's also not the sort of tactical improvements that we would usually have in our safety division, usually as a response to maybe if there's a particularly bad crash, then we would go and try to just get something in the ground as soon as possible. So we try to have something that's in the middle there. But so it's not just bus lanes, and as I mentioned before, a big part of it is looking at the bus stops themselves. Part of it is having curb extensions, which provide benefits not only in terms of accessibility by preventing cars from parking right there in the bus lane, particularly on corridors where you have street parking that might go all the way up to the bus stop. Too often, drivers will think, oh, this is a perfectly normal place that I can just pull over and I'll just be a minute, without really realizing that from an accessibility standpoint, they've basically deprived people of the ability to use the bus. So that's something that on a physical level, we can help address with curb extensions like the ones shown on the screen. There's one for on 8th Street Northeast, one on Minnesota Avenue Southeast. And both of those were projects where we determined that we didn't have room to put in bus lanes on those particular corridors, and also for some other reasons as well. But those are places where we're improving accessibility. The bus doesn't need to pull over and then wait to merge back into traffic. It can pick people up and get going. And that's something that can have a real benefit. A quick look at some of our upcoming projects. So on the left side of the screen, in that tangled intersection that you may be familiar with, right next to the Anacostia Metro Station at Martin Luther King Jr. Avenue and Howard Road. So this is an intersection that, apart from being very complicated to navigate, not being a great experience for non-drivers or drivers for that matter to go through, it's also been a particular situation where you're dealing with a bus loop that is the most significant bus transfer point in the entire region. And so that's a place where you just have tons of buses going in and out. But right now, those buses that might be going north on Martin Luther King or south on Martin Luther King, they all have to turn into Howard Road heading northwest and then going into the bus loop. And that is just a very slow kind of circular motion that wastes a huge amount of time for bus riders. So basically what we're doing is we're opening up a little shortcut so that buses will have a new dedicated bus lane that's really a left turn lane just for them, so the buses can just zip right into the bus loop, which really is going to shave a lot of time off of those bus journeys, which we're very excited about. And I know that WMATA is as well. It's going to have the signal timing is going to be set up so that it won't be a bus only signal, but it will be actuated in a way so that when buses are coming in, the red light will go on for traffic coming on Howard Road and MLK the other direction, basically giving just a few seconds of a gap so that buses can easily make that left turn there. So that project actually just started construction this week, and so it'll be a long process, but we're definitely excited about the benefits there. And then on the right, we're calling it the version 3.0 of I Street Northwest, which has really been kind of a workhorse bus lane as part of our downtown network. I mean, this is a facility that we've already upgraded. You can see in this picture, it shows a section by Franklin Park where we created double bus lanes because we realized that there's so much stopping activity that we also need to have more space for buses that are going through. And so now we're taking another look at I Street to kind of give it another boost. And what we'll be doing with this one, and we have more details on our website, but this is going to extend the bus lanes going east to 11th Street. That's accounting for the new bus network, which I guess is kind of the elephant in the room for all of this discussion tonight. But there's been a lot more service on I Street, particularly in the blocks between 13th and 11th. So this is going to extend those bus lanes. It's going to give a better connection for those buses that are in those couple of blocks. It's also going to kind of move some of the lanes around so that right now for general traffic, there's a bit of a bottleneck because there are 2 car lanes basically that then goes into 3 lanes and then goes back to 2 lanes. And so that kind of creates an unnecessary bottleneck that makes drivers cranky and isn't really good for the buses either, because a lot of that traffic can spill back and block the bus lane. So with this, we're going to have it consistent so that it's going to be 2 general traffic lanes all the way through, much less of that kind of weaving back and forth, which can also be a major safety hazard. But so this is one that we'll be looking to build later on this year. And then on the design front, we do have a number of projects that are kind of slowly moving through the process of planning and then design. Just a couple to highlight here that I know many of you may be familiar with. So on U Street Northwest and Georgia Avenue, those are 2 similar corridors, Georgia obviously being a lot longer, but very heavy bus corridors, and also bus corridors where we are proposing to have offset bus lanes. And this is a distinction that is important because when you think of a curbside bus lane, that's oftentimes a bus lane that is going to be blocked by deliveries, by cars pulling over, particularly if it's in an active retail area. I know that the existing bus lanes on kind of lower Georgia Avenue are definitely a case in point of the perils of having a curbside bus lane when there's a lot of curbside demand. So by putting the bus lanes in an offset condition, the buses get to move faster. You get to preserve the curb for whatever use, and it may be parking, it may be just allowing for more pickup drop-off space, loading space, that sort of thing, and kind of accommodating that without getting in the way of the buses. So on both U Street and Georgia Avenue, this graphic here is kind of the template that we're going to be moving forward on. And in both cases, they're just starting to move into the actual design and engineering process that will take some time, but we are going to do our best to kind of keep moving these things along and keep folks updated as we go. And then just a couple of other things to highlight. I forgive me for not having better graphics here, but I can pull up the some designs if you want to take a little bit deeper dive on Nanny Helen Burroughs in Northeast. That's one where we're going to have a short section of curbside bus lane in an area where we don't think it's going to be too much at risk of getting blocked. And then we're taking kind of a shortcut for westbound buses that will avoid a really congested approach going westbound to Minnesota Avenue Northeast, and doing some looking at stop locations and stop improvements. And then on 8th Street Southeast around Barracks Row, that's a place where we're going to have some bus lane sections and then some sections of just looking at moving bus stops to places where buses can more easily pull over to the curb so people can actually get on and off, and they're not worried about, kind of a car that's just in there in the most awkward way possible, so that then the bus is coming in at an angle and can't actually deploy the ramp if it needs to. So that's just a couple of things that we're doing. The other thing that we're doing a lot of work on, or just starting to do a lot of work on, is updating our bus priority plan, which was originally published at the end of 2021, and obviously that's a very different time, and not only in terms of thinking like, oh yeah, pandemic era, and what's our data that's going into this, and what are our specific, what do we know about our projects now that we have a little bit more experience delivering these projects. That's going to help us target things more effectively, I think. It's also just an opportunity for us to make sure that our bus priority network is well aligned with the new bus network that WMATA has been rolling out. And I guess on that note, I will note that that's something that we at DDOT have been very involved in over the past couple of years, but particularly since the beginning of this year, as WMATA has been kind of moving ahead with this. And so we've been doing a lot of coordination in terms of trying to make sure that the stop locations that they have are appropriate, fully accessible. Unfortunately, because of our the district's kind of fiscal pressures that I think we're all aware of, we have not been able to do some of the work ourselves that we ordinarily would do in terms of things like ensure that we have concrete landing pads at new bus stops. But fortunately, WMATA has been able to take that over and is working through it. One thing I will note is that we definitely are aware that there's some there's some kinks out there in terms of what is out there, particularly in terms of the stop locations. My understanding is that there were a couple of basically data issues with some of the information about where stop flags should be getting put in, and so there were some issues when it got down to where stop flags are being installed, where they're being moved, and so things aren't in places where they're supposed to be. So if there are situations that any of you or anybody you know are aware of where things don't seem to line up with what you think they're supposed to be, or certainly if there are accessibility issues, we would ask that you please contact WMATA on those, not to be passing the buck, but just because right now they're kind of in the driver's seat when it comes to a lot of those stop-by-stop issues, and they're in a better position to be able to get people out to respond to that. But definitely, keep us in the loop. But for kind of the quickest resolution, going directly to WMATA will be the best course of action. Yeah, that's sorry. I should have a more fun ending than just kind of ending on the downer note of the kind of boring missteps of a bus network redesign. But overall, it is something that I think is, yes, there's people who are having to get used to some new changes. Not everything is working out perfectly, but there are also a lot of things that we think are really great for the district and for the region in terms of helping buses work better for everybody. So yeah, that's it for my, I guess, formal presentation. So please yeah, jump in if there are any questions or comments.
Cool.
I'm happy to jump in. I want to say thank you, Jamie. This is great and super informative. And one of the things you touched on is the kind of the adjustments we all need to be making to the new and to the new buses. And I'm wondering if there's any data you're looking at, or if people should be providing feedback to either you or WMATA on things that need adjusting. I am noticing in my neighborhood, it's wonderful we're getting actually more buses servicing our street, but I'm also noticing that sometimes there's a lot of them at once, and they're trying
Yeah.
to navigate a small street that wasn't accustomed to that level of traffic. And so I'm wondering if there's things that you or WMATA are looking together at to figure out kind of how to smooth those things out.
Right. No, thank you. And may I ask what street that is, just so that I can have it on our radar?
Sure. That's Cathedral Avenue, Northwest.
My parents live on that street.
It's a lovely street, and
Yeah.
we're very excited to have more service. I admit I'm still learning the routes, and I mistakenly take buses that I haven't meant to so
Yeah.
far. But hey, I'm seeing, different streets while doing that, so that's great. But I was wondering just one morning when I was riding, I was like, oh, there's a lot of buses trying to turn or kind of meeting each other at this point, and is this gonna either slow their route down or impact traffic in other ways?
Mhm.
And there's probably other things around the city that you're looking at from that perspective.
I definitely know for a fact that area, that it definitely qualifies as a place where there's some kinks that are getting worked out. I think part of it is because of the way that a couple of the new routes that they have there, I think it's the D96 and the C85, which kind of wiggle around a little bit and have to do some of those tough turns, like from
Yes.
Mass onto
Yes.
Idaho. And so I think that's something that WMATA is definitely monitoring. And one thing that we had been working on in the lead up to the launch date is that WMATA had identified a number of places where they needed us to restrict parking around the corners so that the buses would actually be able to make the turn.
100%.
And so I think that there will probably be some follow-up locations where maybe after a little bit more experience on the ground, maybe they'll say, oh, you know what, maybe this is a place where we could use a little more wiggle room in that regard. And as far as the kind of the operation side of the bus bunching and buses kind of coming together, I think that's another thing that once they have some more experience of seeing how everything is actually operating on the street, that they'll be able to do a better job of kind of lining up the schedules properly.
Yeah. And I know there's this one turn from Idaho onto Cathedral, and there was actually some the flexible kind of blocks that were put up, I think for safety reasons, but I also think it makes the bus turn harder for the space. And that actually was put up a year or two ago. It might have been in anticipation, I'm not sure, of the whole changes, but I just wanted to point that out. And I'm sure there's probably other places around the city. And if there's, I guess, my second kind of related question is if there's a specific way that DDOT or WMATA wants to receive feedback, let us know, because as we're traveling around, we can kind of note these things and hopefully, pass them on so that it'd be helpful for whatever adjustments are needed.
Yeah, yeah, great. No, that's definitely helpful feedback that I'll mention to WMATA the next time that we have a check-in with them. I mean, I do think, and as much as this often can sound like a brush off, I think for this specific time of dealing with the Better Bus Network, going through WMATA's standard customer service line, whether it's through their website comments, whether it's their general customer feedback line, is probably the best way to get that information there, because I know that they've actually brought on extra staff to handle all of these comments, and that they are regularly, getting all of that information to the service planning team and tracking everything so that they can really stay on top of it. So I would suggest that, but definitely feel free to contact me. My email's there on the screen, and if there are any things that come up and you're not sure if WMATA's looking at it or not. And then, of course, when it's something that maybe veers, it's always kind of a gray area of, like, where does the WMATA role stop? Where does the DDOT role begin when it comes to buses operating on the street? But yeah, when things get more into maybe a question of the roadway infrastructure, certainly get in touch.
That's really helpful to know that. Thank you so much. And thanks for all your efforts here. As you can tell, I'm an avid bus rider. So it's the primary way I get around with my wheelchair. So I really appreciate all your work.
Yeah, well, thank you.
Hi there. I joined a little bit late, so I'm sorry if this isn't completely relevant, but I'm also an avid bus rider, and I use a wheelchair like Kelly. And I'm really glad that Kelly feels like the changes have been beneficial to her neighborhood. I'm really devastated by the changes in the Better Bus Network. It has basically eliminated any chance of me using the bus. And I think this is more of a WMATA problem than a DDOT problem. But basically, if I want to get a bus, and I'm in Southwest, um, uh, near Linfund Plaza, but still about 15 minutes away from there. If I want to catch a bus, now I have to go to Linfund Plaza or Waterfront. And if I have to walk to a metro anyway, I'm going to use the metro. And previously, there were buses on my street corner, literally outside my building. And it was just amazing for my independence and my mobility. Again, I do realize this is probably not completely under your purview, but if I do have this feedback about how it has negatively impacted my neighborhood, is there anywhere I can provide that feedback?
Yeah, I mean, I would say in that regard, yeah, I'm sorry that, I mean, obviously, yeah, it's some people are thrilled, some people are clearly in tough situations, like yourself, and I'm sorry to hear that. I would say, likewise, as with Kelly, I think it's good to get those kinds of comments really on the record with Metro's customer service, because they are tracking those. But it would also be potentially something to mention to your council member, presumably Charles Allen,
Yeah.
just to follow up on. But I'll definitely be mentioning it to WMATA when we're next checking in with them.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I left a lot of feedback in the proposed plan, and
Mhm.
there was that map where you could add a pin and you could write based on your location. So many people in my neighborhood and some of the other people on this call also live near me, added comments about how this plan really isolated our neighborhood. Like, for example, I used to use the bus to cross the National Mall and go north,
Mhm.
and that really is not an option anymore. But yeah, I didn't even think to contact customer service, so I will try to do that. And I appreciate your understanding of my complaints.
All right. Thank you for mentioning it.
And
Hey,
kind of,
Kartik,
yeah.
I'm wondering if it would be appropriate for the MAC to kind of collect that kind of feedback that Naomi's looking at, so that like maybe the MAC could raise it another level. I mean, it sounds like WMATA received the comment, but maybe it needs to be raised further. Oh, and if there are other areas of the city that maybe need a little bit more PLC. Anyway, sorry to interrupt, but
Yeah, for sure. Specifically around the P6, the killing of the P6, or whatever it would have been named had it been not axed. Yeah, for sure. I think that's a great idea. Yeah, and kind of pulling it up kind of a little bit further, just kind of big picture. When we brought this up with the director, and it's not clear that it was actually like kind of fully internalized. The state of our transportation network is really unfair, and it's actually like really pretty like bad policy also, in the sense that like with this, so Jamie, you've gone through the time tax, like our documents and stuff. Yeah, I mean, just like the big picture fact that, if you're a driver and you go somewhere in 10 minutes, you can get somewhere in 10 minutes. But if you're not, it will take you at least 26 minutes and possibly up to 80 minutes is not right. And, said like in kind of more clear terms, like your life is worth 2.5 times more if you are a driver. And if you are not a driver, your life is worth 40% as much of a driver, because all life is just a series of time sequences. And that is not only unfair, it's also bad policy, because there are tons of people who are driving because that is the best way to get around the city. And that's just something kind of really big picture that I don't think is like fully internalized. Like, and I feel like it, and this is kind of one question to you, and I know you may not be able to kind of fully answer this, but like, how do we get people to really internalize this at DDOT? And maybe even like we're going to be doing our work like, with the general public, because I don't think people fully like realize, even drivers, the fact that our bus system is so deprioritized right now, that they're all worse off because of it. Even the drivers are worse off because of it. Like, how do we get this really like into people's minds? Is it's like, hey, this is yes, you may be losing a little bit of parking, and it may be slightly inconvenient in the short term, but in the long term, like, this is where we have to go in order for our city to move and be fair and be a good place to live.
Yeah, it's definitely, I mean, and it's definitely a very tricky thing, and I agree that we do need to be doing more to be making space for buses and ensuring that buses aren't getting dragged down in the kind of delays that it can make it a second tier transportation service. I think that there are always going to be challenges just with our street network, in the way that, and yes, it was informed by a lot of decisions that past generations made in terms of where streets going to go through, where highway is going to be built, and that it's sometimes difficult to get past that. I mean, thinking about a place where if someone lives, I don't know, maybe in the Palisades or something, and you've got a straight shot to downtown with big arterial roads, a freeway, parkway, all of these things, and because you don't have, say, a metro line that can take you there in a way that completely avoids congestion, and then there's not a bus route that can really make the same direct connection, because it can't really go on those same roads. That's something that is tricky to get past. I think that with the bus priority program, I think we have a good approach of really trying to focus in on the places where we know that the buses are clearly set up for success in terms of major corridors where they're going directly from point A to point B, and we know that the challenges they're running into along the way are things that we can address by giving them more space, giving them more priority on those streets. So on Georgia Avenue, let's say, where we're talking about the busiest bus corridor in the entire region, that this is something where we know we can make a difference to tens of thousands of people on a daily basis, and also while also making it more of an option, hopefully for more people. So I think that for our part, we're trying to take that sort of focus of working through the corridors that not only have the most buses and the most ridership already, but also are kind of set up in a way that we know we have the best chance for success because we know that it's kind of hospitable to bus service if we can get the space for it.
Yeah. So one thing, I mean, I think, is there any talk of making, some sort of North Star metric? Like, there's in the sense that, like, I think the time tax is one good one. But like, there's, putting miles down of a bus lane or queue jumps, these are all nice output related like metrics. And this is like, yes, we did this is great. But at the end of the day, like, in order to actually change people's behaviors, like, that's really like, it's kind of like upstream from like someone's actual like behavior, and what we want to see is behavior change. And I think like behavior change in the sense that, or we want, or behavior, it's not behavior change. What we want to see is like people actually having legitimate options that are safe and fair and equitable and accessible, etc. Like, and I think a travel time, like just having a set of points, ANC centroids are definitely not the points, but like, whether it's like, okay, these population centers to these places, like, we need to get these travel times down to parity, or even 1.5 times parity. And having some sort of North Star metric like that of like, hey, this is where we are right now. 2.67 is where we are overall. You can quibble with how we got there, but like 2.67 is where we are right now, and we need to get to 1.5 or even 1.0. Like, is there any talk of actually like putting down like this is planting a flag in the sand saying, hey, this is where we want to go as a city. We want to make it as convenient to take a bus as it is to drive.
Yeah, I mean, I think, as I said, I think taking that, I don't think we're quite at a point where we can take that approach for like the entire district, just because there are these specific challenges particularly in areas where there's not the population or activity density to support the kind of frequency that would be necessary to have that kind of time competitiveness. But we have actually just yesterday we had a meeting with WMATA to talk about our plan update, and we were talking about kind of, now that we do have some great results for our projects that we can hang our hats on and say, okay, these are like, we know that on I Street Northwest that has been speeding buses up to like over 35%, that they're going 35% faster, that we can have those kinds of metrics and reasonable expectations for those projects, that we can also translate into ideas like person throughput and thinking about kind of things on that sort of focused level. Yeah, I mean, I think in the long term, it'd be great to have a framework that was able to look at more of the city. But I think that for right now, we're trying to keep it focused on the places where we know we can really move the needle in a way that is using it, even just existing ridership. We don't have to gamble on saying, well, if this, and then WMATA, if we could then get WMATA to boost service, and then we could get this. Like, I think that if we can keep moving through the process of notching those wins on the places where we we know that the need is there. We know that we have the potential to make an impact. That's something that can kind of, I think, make the case more globally.
What if it was more, and feel free to jump in at any point. What if it's kind of cherry picking the top, let's say top 5 bus corridors in terms of ridership, and basically say, hey, like we are going to pull out all the stops to get this to parity. So let's take Georgia Ave, for example, like the 7079 now, actually I'm not sure what they've renamed it. I haven't been back in the city since they've renamed it, but let's take that corridor, runs from Penn, 7th and Penn, all the way to Silver Spring. Like what would it take? So I think that is the highest ridership bus corridor, right?
That's right.
What would that like actually like measure that like take a realistic, it would be probably morning, afternoon, evening, whatever. Maybe we could come up with an average, but actually say, hey, we want to get this to parity, or we want to get this to 1.5 or something. Like, would that be in the cards?
I think one approach that we have done a little bit with of trying to set those outcome targets is less about the kind of car versus bus idea, even though that's kind of always going to be there, but just looking at what is the travel time for this bus at 2 a.m,
Right.
and just having that as a good starting point, because no matter what, buses will always, they have to stop, they have to pick people up, and then if we have that source of delay that we know is relatively unavoidable, because we want buses to be able to pick people up and people need to get off, that we can then look at those individual sources of delay and really start chipping away at that. And so looking at trying to get a sense of what's the best we can do under like kind of the current operating parameters, that gives us a good sense of what we can shoot for. And I think that is something that, because it's tied to kind of that actual experience on the ground, is something that can help us say, you know what, this is not pie in the sky. This is about things that we know can make a difference in bringing this towards that. And ideally, we could get to a point in the future where we have gotten to be so well versed in our toolbox, not only in terms of things like bus lanes, but also getting more into the transit signal priority, that right now we have a system, but it's pretty low tech. It's definitely kind of it's a little bit on its last legs. But there have been cities around the country that have been moving to kind of next generation TSP systems that are just doing incredible things. Like in Portland, they have a BRT line that basically has, I mean, it's majority without bus lanes, because they just said, we don't have the space to carve out bus lanes. But just by using a very, very advanced and very aggressive form of TSP that is informed by, they use AI to basically develop really robust predictive models on when the buses are going to be coming through and when they need to give buses a little bit of a priority at the intersection. They were able to shave off 8 minutes just of signal delay for a bus going along this corridor without bus lanes. So I think that's something that WMATA right now is in the process of kind of scoping out what the next generation TSP system is going to be. And so that I think is going to be an exciting space to keep an eye on, because it means that we can really get things that are measurable, and we don't have, and obviously when you're talking about a TSP system that is kind of programmed in, it can hopefully make it a little easier to deploy in places where it's a constrained corridor and trying to go in and claim space for bus.
Yeah. I mean, and again, feel free, folks, to jump in as you'd like. But I think, I mean, and I'm all for technology. I'm just the thing that I want to press on, and I know you're limited in what you can kind of do and say, but is really, it's so technology. We can and should be using technology, but at the end of the day, like what we really need are um, are red carpet lanes. Like this is sorry, I'm showing the wrong thing. Our transportation principles, our street space principles that we passed last year. I'm not sure if you've seen this, Jamie, but basically for all arterials, we've come up with a street space utilization priority or prioritization framework. And so basically, taking any arterial street with a bus route.
Hey, Karthik, Jamie dropped, just letting you know.
Oh, okay.
I think he lost connection.
Got it. Hopefully he'll come back.
I'll see if I can get him back in.
Okay, cool. In the meantime, while we're getting him back, I turned, with the help of AI, turned this. So Lizzie, or yeah, Jamie's back. Okay. I will put this in the chat.
Sorry, everybody, lost my connection there.
No worries. Yes. So, sorry, a little bit of whiplash for folks. So, we have passed a set of principles for arterial roads. I'm not sure if you've seen this, Jamie, but essentially for folks who haven't seen this, this is basically a framework for prioritization of street space on arterial streets, and kind of what we should be thinking about, what should be prioritized with our with DDOT right of way. So first and foremost, ADA accessible sidewalks are the most important thing for any arterial street. Then, given how accessible, reliable, then given how important the bus is, especially for folks who don't drive, and also how much more efficient it is to have people on a bus than in a car. 24/7 dedicated and protected bus lanes that can also be used by emergency vehicles. Then ADA pickup and drop-off zones, then protected bike lanes and scooter lanes and micro-mobility lanes generally. Then bike and scooter parking that also serve as hardened daylight infrastructure. Then general motor vehicle travel lanes, only at number 6. Then ADA only parking. Then ADA accessible parklets and streeteries. Then tree boxes, and then number 10 is truly market price car parking, the last priority. And kind of the reason that we bring this up is that like this is where we could and should be. It's nowhere near where we actually are. And the thing that I'm afraid of is that we keep putting number 10 ahead of number 2. And that's where, like, I know that the 7th Street, when we had 7th Street bus lane, or that those discussions coming in 2020 during the pandemic, like that was number 10 Trump number 2, and that whole project was killed. So yeah, I mean, I think kind of the kind of big picture is like, how do we step up bus lanes across the district? Like, is the bottleneck money, or is it more on the kind of pushback side? Or do you have, where should we be pushing to make your life and your work more, like, how do we get from like 20% where we are now to 80% where we should be?
Yeah, no, thank you. I mean, that's a great question because and honestly, I think every different corridors have different challenges. And I think, like you mentioned, parking, I think there are some places where parking absolutely was kind of the critical issue that we had to kind of work around, like on Pennsylvania Avenue Southeast, where the we had we have bus lanes and protected bike lanes there, but we kind of knew pretty early on that in those commercial corridors that there would be a major demand to retain some kind of curbside parking there. And even at the times where we, I mean, and we are seeing that those are the trickiest places to keep the bus lanes clear, even with our camera enforcement, even with efforts to go and have towing blitzes, things like that. But that's just a really big challenge when you're talking about curbside demand. But on Georgia Avenue, that's kind of a different situation where uh, we almost had the because so much of the corridor already has little curb extensions that would prevent us from because we're not planning on like fully reconstructing the street, so we knew like okay we can't use the curb lane because we're not going to do a bus lane where the bus is weaving in and out up like it wouldn't work. So with that we're saying yeah, we'll program the curb the way that you know we think it should be programmed block by block, but we just knew from the get-go that approaching it as saying, no, we're going to be repurposing a lane of general purpose traffic to the bus lane rather than getting into the curb. That's something that has, at least so far, like, yes, we still have challenges there, but it means that we're able to kind of avoid that discussion, and then the curbside discussion can kind of take place in its own uh, in its own environment where you're talking about the choices of is this going to be parking, is this going to be ADA spaces, is this going to be pickup drop off, that sort of thing. So I think that where there are multiple travel lanes for cars, looking uh, at the offset configuration or something else, another place for the bus lane that isn't dealing with parking, not to be not that we're like afraid to touch parking, but just recognizing the inherent challenges of that.
Yeah. And actually kind of on that, so the alternative to curbside bus lanes, I think is the better center running bus lane, that we wouldn't have to be worried about turning vehicles as well. It seems like K Street is a very, very wide street, and it seemed like they're trying to do even with that, they basically it wasn't funded fine, but even just the ambition of just trying to get it done, they took the widest street that we possibly had and said, okay, we're going to do center running bus lanes. But there's center running bus lanes in a lot of places with nowhere near that type of street width. Is that again kind of just running up against, this is, we don't want to make any trade-offs, and so the only place that we can do center running bus lanes is a place like K Street?
I mean, I think that it really gets challenging. Like on U Street and on Georgia, I know that we got a lot of interest from members of the public, including folks here, of looking at center running, but that the challenge was that it really would force a lot of those hard trade-offs on the curb, and recognizing that it'd be one thing if it was in an area where there was just not curb demand, and we like if there was super wide sidewalks and it was apartment buildings with vehicle access in the back, then great, that would be not a problem. But because it's in areas that do have a lot of that curbside demand, I I think it's important to make sure that the transit benefits aren't being for somebody who, yeah, is just not thinking about it's not something that's going to affect them, that they are thinking about, I need I need freight to come and make deliveries to me. I have specific issues like that, or even in terms of the ADA access for ADA spaces for people who do need to drive. So I think we just also just from looking at other cities have had some great results with just looking at offset bus lanes in terms of a cost benefit analysis, that they're really able to get a lot of bang for the buck. But you mentioned K Street, and I realized that K Street, it kind of it seemed like I would say it's on ice, it's not dead. So it's not, I think that corridor does have a lot of potential, and I think that particularly as I know that some of the DMV moves effort that WMATA has been involved in, that they've been kind of trying to articulate a vision for more of an east-west kind of almost BRT level type of service. And that's again coming out of kind of the WMATA and DMV moves corner. But then meanwhile, we have the potential RFK campus project that the mayor is working on the district side. And I think that obviously there will be a lot more planning that happens there. But so yeah, keep an eye on that space. But I think that the first place where we have that sort of center running situation would probably need to be a place where we could really say, you know what, this is really wide enough that we can do this. I mean, there are also challenges in terms of bus operations with the center running configuration, because it does make it a little more difficult, or can make it more difficult for buses to pass one another. So if you look at in Virginia on the Metroway in Crystal City and Potomac Yard, that is a great facility, but the bus frequencies are actually not that high. So it doesn't run into that challenge of buses needing to get around each other. Whereas I think looking at a longer corridor like Georgia Avenue, where it's really important to have both the local service to make sure that people can have stops that are close by, as well as the express limited service just to cover more ground. That's a much trickier thing to work out when it's a center running configuration.
Yeah, I'd advocate for us just to get one done, just so that people can see it and see the possibilities. Because I just worry that, like, if we wait for like the perfect situation to come along and we design a $100 million project, and for whatever reason doesn't get funded, like we're waiting for the next unicorn to come along. And that's kind of what I was advocating with, we had talked to Megan a long time ago, just about just putting miles down. That's where we were talking about bus lanes. So maybe it's not the perfect situation, maybe it's not the highest ridership corridor, but if it's a place where there's not fights, where there's not a lot of maybe it's, I brought up the example of 7th Street through the mall, where there's no residential, there's no commercial, this is, and maybe it's not maybe you're not going to get giant benefits from it, but it will potentially, it could help run the 7079 or the replacement down, instead of from 7th to Penn. Now it could go to L'Enfant Plaza. And that's just one of these kind of small incremental improvements that without a fight, we could get further, instead of, there's some places where we have to have the fight, but if we can get miles down, put points on the board without having the fights, it could be, we could just get more done.
Yeah. And I mean, I think that we definitely do not go into any project with a sense of saying, oh no, we can't do that. We really do take a look at kind of what are all the options, and because right now we do have the constraints in terms of the scope of construction that we can take on with our program right now, and in terms of our funding. We just want to, our focus right now is maximizing what we can do with what we have. And the nice thing about what we've been doing so far is that we are able to iterate, we are able to go back and really get things right. And I think the trickier thing when it is some of those big projects is that it can sometimes be a little more difficult to iterate. And I think that, do I think that in the future we will have some kind of center running thing? Yeah, I mean, when is that? That's kind of the question. But I think that we're making a difference right now, and I think we're demonstrating the value of putting buses first on the streets where there's a clear need for it. And I think the more that we can show that we're making a difference and the buses deserve to have that kind of priority, the more we can really be building the constituency that can help us get to the next level.
Cool. I've totally monopolized the conversation. So feel free, folks, anyone else, please feel free to jump in here.
This is super helpful, and I think it might be helpful to meet like on a regular basis, like maybe annual, semi-annual, just because buses are so central to accessible transportation for disabled residents.
One thing, I want to throw this out there for the council, and I've been thinking about this. The Bicycle Advisory Council has the active transportation branch come and basically present on the status of all of their major capital project, or maybe not capital projects, but all of the protected bike lanes that are going in on a regular basis. Is that something, Jamie, that you'd be open to, whether you or someone else just popping in and just saying, hey, this is where we are with these particular bus lanes or these particular bus priority projects?
Sure. I mean, I'm always happy to come
Cool.
by. I mean, I can work with Zach to kind of figure out what that might look like and kind of what the best way to approach it would be. But yeah, always happy to come and talk.
Cool. Okay, great. Anyone else have bus priority related questions? Okay, Jamie, super appreciate your help fighting the good fight. We really appreciate everything that you're doing, and we want to be there to support you with everything that you're doing. Please see us as a major advocate for your work.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Thank you for taking the time to participate in this.
Yeah. Thanks again, Jamie. Cool. All right. So let us shift over while we have Lizzie and Naomi so Lizzie put together Lizzie, would you mind if I just shared this email?
No, that's fine.
Okay, perfect. Which I think, and this is what Lizzie had brought this up with the director as well. And I think this really deserves a resolution from us, because we can kind of put a stamp and a stake in the ground where we can say, hey, this is problematic. So right now, or actually, Lizzie, could you walk us through?
Yeah, I think, let me make a comment at the top, which is, and Zach, I would actually appreciate if you're willing to chime in here, because I think MAACDC was in at least one instance, but my recollection is a couple times presented to us as sort of a documentation tool of the known issues as well as planned remediation. And it might be accurate. I suspect it's accurate on the planned remediation side of the house, but I think what's very clear, and I think what is at least high level or in one instance summarized here, is that it is not accurately capturing the state of things. And so I think I'm still a little I'll just say confused about the delta between, okay, we have cars with imaging technology going out, we have robots with imaging technology going out, we have humans going out, documenting the state of sidewalks, which, going back to Karthik's sharing of our priorities, is number one, right? If you can't get down the sidewalk to the public transportation means nothing. Taking Rhode Island Ave, which I understand that, the director, reaffirmed, like, it is a known issue. But if PAVE-DC is not accurately capturing the state of Rhode Island Ave, then I really I think it's a disservice to the community, because it's not acknowledging that voices are being heard about where problems exist. It also, it just gives the sense that when things are reported, they go into a black hole, right? Like in December 2022, I submitted a 50-page document with all of those red X's on that map, clearly characterized, photographed, geocoded, exact intersections. And, there's this screenshots of PAVE-DC, documenting some of those stretches, but not all. And I can tell you, these two photos, nothing has changed on those sidewalks, at least as of a couple months ago. And you can't get by on either side of that street on Rhode Island Ave. And the side streets are not much better. So if you're a wheelchair user trying to pass up a main arterial to get to public transportation, or otherwise just to get from point A to point B via a sidewalk, you're in a real hard spot on a lot of sections. And I can't tell you how many times I have had to push down Rhode Island Ave in my wheelchair. And I have seen other wheelchair users, manual and motorized, pushing down Rhode Island Ave, which everyone here should know is not a street you want to be out on in your wheelchair. So what you're seeing here is documentation from December 22 of about a 1.5 mile stretch of Rhode Island Ave, of where there was egregious violations. Like, these aren't just like little whoopsies. These are on par with the photos further down, which is, like I said, it's just one section of Rhode Island Ave on mirroring. So this is literally opposite of the street of the other photo further down, with that, that's almost a 4-inch lip from the roots. And I guess, sorry, Karthik, I'm rolling around, but if you scroll up a little bit, there's the screenshot, one from PAVE-DC in the section. So if you go down a little bit, a little more. So that is PAVE-DC for where those two photos below are. So there's literally no documentation of this. And if you scroll up, this is PAVE-DC for the equivalent of the map that I provided. And so you can see here, there's a couple stretches that are red, right? Like acknowledging, and if you click onto those red lines in the tool, it'll tell you that both sides of the street, the sidewalks, are prepared. But like this whole avenue should be red.
Yeah.
And I think that, I don't know if the problem is that red in the legend of PAVE-DC indicates planned remediation. And I don't know if essentially it needs another entry to the legend that is not yet planned remediation, but known issue. But Zach, your hand's up. So you probably have feedback here.
Yeah, I just want to say, of course, there are definitely issues on Rhode Island Avenue. I won't dispute that. I think when we talk about sort of how we track the condition of the sidewalk, we don't use PAVE-DC as much. We're using our sidewalk condition assessment. So on Open Data DC, this is where you mentioned that the cyclomedia vehicle goes around and takes photos of the sidewalk to detect pavement condition and whether it's good, bad, excellent, or it's failing. And so that's going to be a little bit different than PAVE-DC. PAVE-DC does sort of put out a map of what's coming in terms of like what's planned to be fixed, I think up until 2030. But this is a more comprehensive list of like what the actual issue is. Still a work in progress. We're still trying to figure out how to include things like slope, like that's the slope of the sidewalk, so whether it's too high or the level of it, and that's a little bit difficult to see from a car. That's where you do have to go out and sort of view it itself. But I will say we are working toward being more transparent about the data we have in open data DC and not just relying on paid DC.
Yeah.
And of course, I think we did a report shortly after we received yours on some fixes that we could do, and my team will take a look at that again to see if there are any improvements that can be made, or where we need to talk to some of the relevant parties about when that can be done. So I just wanted to throw that out.
Yeah, that's helpful. I mean, but again, I'm looking at, I know that this is an ongoing effort, but I'm looking at one segment on the sidewalk condition assessment that I know has a section of sidewalk that is probably less than 20 inches wide before it cuts off into a hole, essentially. And it's categorized as in good condition on this tool. So I just, anyways, I know it's a work in progress. It's just, if this is such a known corridor, I think it's worth still highlighting that there's a discrepancy between the publicly available documentation, what's known by the community. But Karthik, I'm curious what you're thinking of for a resolution.
Yeah, so basically, I mean, it's kind of like the time tax in the sense that, like, it's just, here's where, rather than focusing on any like individual street or individual problem, it's just like, hey, this is what we need. We need ADA compliance across the district. That's what we need. And so that's basically this. So this is totally like 80-20 or quick and dirty, but basically it's just like, here we have a moral and a legal obligation to follow the ADA. The city does, and like all over the city, like Rhode Island and everywhere else, there are so many problems with, like, between tree roots and busted up sidewalks, non-existent sidewalks, poles in the middle of sidewalks, like just like general poor condition across the district. Like, we have this problem. The current documentation efforts don't work. The current system doesn't work, like, in the sense that, like, you've reported this for 3 years ago. Like, I remember reporting this the first time I lived in DC, like 15 years ago. Like, some of these same issues still exist. And basically saying, like, hey, like, we need a citywide ADA compliant audit, citywide ADA compliance audit of all sidewalks. There should be some sort of like 90-day remediation timeline or some sort of timeline. I just made these numbers up with the help of AI. And then like some sort of like very clear, easy to use, transparent, saying, okay, we know there's a problem. This is the time. This is like when we anticipate fixing it. And yeah, that's it. Basically saying, hey, like, we have this obligation as a city. Like, we do need to get there. Like, we're nowhere near meeting this obligation. We should have a citywide compliance audit, and we do need to start fixing it. That's like basically the upshot of this.
See Sal's hand up.
Oh, go for it, Sal.
So, hello, can you
Yes.
Can you all hear me?
Yes, we can.
Sorry, I'm in the car and it's raining outside. But first of all, I wanted to thank you all for these discussions, and I love the idea that we're emphasizing that ADA compliance should really be the focus here. However, I'm also wanted to suggest that we try to have more awareness on what we do in the communities, because I don't think how many people really know what we do. We are not too visible out there. And as a result, we are not able to really get what we call that community engagement that will help to give us more opportunity to learn about the challenges that people with disability are facing in their different communities, and as well as a great opportunity for us to be able to expand our reach and help more. So I want to suggest that we start thinking about how can we really engage the community or stakeholders in ensuring that this compliance being adhered to.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think there's a whole whole community engagement plan that I think would be great to put together, about this is what ADA compliance means. This is what the MAC does. This is what how you can get involved. You should come to our meetings. You should submit 311 requests. But yeah, totally. I mean, I think that's like a whole kind of meeting in itself of just focusing on how we can how to get kind of more out there in the community. But in the meantime, just kind of one thought is just putting a stake in the ground right now of just saying, hey, we need to get this done. It's not okay right now. The state of our sidewalks is nowhere near okay. It's nowhere near ADA compliant. We do need a citywide audit, and we should start getting this done.
I like this part.
If I can make a comment, this is Lakeisha. Good afternoon, everyone. So one of the things that you're mentioning is spot on to what my role has been as being the chief, and that's really for us to really start to be more collaborative, both internally and externally. And so in this role, what we've had to do is really to start in-house first. And so we created some task force. We've done some QA/QC. And so one of the things we want to really get to your point, is to go and do these assessments. And so in the past year, just about August will be a year, I've been working really diligently to see how we can get funding, because we've done reviews of several different softwares that are available that could give us the information, including looking at our current inventory that we have of data that's within other administrations within DDOT. We've been able to get information as far as more recent as 2019. But one of the things I'm hoping we can get by the start of the fiscal year, we had initially had, prior to the freeze, we're going to get some funding for the deep walk software, which will be at the level that we need to do all types of assessments for ADA compliance. Is going to do literally from your phone. We can do measurements and actually see if there's accessibility, if there needs to be any replacements for the trees or impediments in the road, the measuring of the gap. So all those things that would like to be to have. The interim to get us there, because unfortunately it's only one ADA coordinator that we actually have. So both Zach and myself since then have both become certified to be ADA coordinators. And so that's to assist Zachary team. So Xavier is the number one person on that. But to actually go out and do walkthroughs, partner with the community engagement team. But on the information like you just shared for Rhode Island Avenue, Elizabeth, that's something that I personally and Zach and our team want to go out and do some visualizations, to do the assessments, to capture the information, and look to hopefully do this ward-based, but also bring it back to the our executive leadership team, but also to take what your recommendations are and packaging them for budget preparation and hearing, so that we can get funding for this in here going forward. So this is really spot on. We do really welcome this. And so these are some things that we were already in line to try to bring up to do, just even with our staff that we have. One of the other things I will mention is that my division has expanded to, we have construction reps that have done construction sites. So we're now teaching them what to look for as it relates to our measurements, so that we can, kind of have all hands on deck, along with the engineers and the other members of teams within the city. Because we understand that the plan to implement everything is going to take some years, and I've been in government for 25 years, and so I've seen a lot of these projects that have started but don't come to reality for with the studies and everything into construction, maybe anywhere from 8 to 10 years. So I definitely support this aspect of having a comprehensive review, and audit and compliance is that's one of my loves, and it's all relative to transportation. So we will welcome these recommendations because they support our mission fully. Thanks. So thank you all for letting me put
Thank
that
you,
out there.
Lakeisha. Appreciate it.
That's amazing, Lakeisha. I was wondering, Karthik, about one additional thought,
Yep.
and that is maybe something about prioritizing
Yep.
ADA complaints made on 311. And I say that because Zach's been helping me out, because I put in a place recently where there's a completely now inaccessible sidewalk on my street, and it was said it was resolved and closed, and it was. There's been no change or improvement. And so I think maybe a two-parter: prioritization and communication. If it's being scheduled for being repaired, let the person know or put it on the public information so that people know it's coming. So I think that's part of the gap there is, Lizzie, you, me, we keep reporting things, and it keeps feeling like either they're being dismissed or not acknowledged, and maybe they're being worked on. We just have no idea because we're not receiving the appropriate communication. So just not to complicate things, but if we're going to do this audit and process, that needs to be part of it. And thank you, Lakeisha. I just want to say thank you for your comments. Fantastic and super helpful.
Awesome.
And,
yeah.
And thanks to Zach for all your work on trying to figure out what happened with the complaint that I put in.
How about this? So if we add, so I don't know if you can see me typing, but so basically remediating all ADA violations, and also creating a prioritization framework for 311 reports of non-compliant sidewalks.
I like it.
And I just want to be fair to DDOT, because there's no way DC is going to have the budget to remediate every ADA violation in 90 days. I mean, totally. Even if they had the budget, they're not going to have the, anyway. So maybe to me, it's 90 days to complete. So you've got the audit in 180 days, and then maybe another 90 days to essentially develop a remediation plan. And I don't know what is a reasonable timeline, because I know the reality is like the budget's not going to be there for complete remediation. So I just, I just feel like this is going to be taken more seriously if it's within the realm of
possibility. Yeah. So DDOT to establish within 90 days a timeline for remediating.
Maybe prioritizing and remediating, because that way, let's work on the worst things first. Like, to me, Rhode Island being a major arterial, and I think one thing, Lizzie, you were getting at is that if you solve one problem but all the 10 others on the same street remain, it's still inaccessible.
Right. Yeah. No, totally. So I think 90 days to develop the timeline. I feel like we also have to mention, which should, it needs to include any budget request that comes with this as well, right? So it's a timeline, but also there's a costing element here that DDOT should undertake that will say, in order to achieve full ADA compliance, as identified by this audit, it's going to take, $55 million of additional, investment over blah, blah, blah. That's just a key part, because without that number, they're not going to have the tools they need to go and make the ask.
Yep. Done. What else?
I have another quick question. So as because it seems like our work is very, very, very important. And but one thing I've also identified, we don't really have an identifications. Like if we're going on in meetings, representing organization, how are we going to connect with people? We don't have no business card, no ID card, and our work is very, very important for the safety of people with disabilities. Is there any reason why there is no identifications?
Yeah, so we actually do have a template business card. So Nao, can you connect with Sal to help him get a business card?
Oh, okay, thank you.
We are coming up on time. It would be, so do folks feel, I mean, this is kind of quick and dirty, but I would like to get something in the sand, like a flag planted in the sand. I know it's not perfect, but do folks feel kind of ready to vote on a motion like this or a resolution like this?
Could we add one more element, and that is for essentially public. Sal, do you mind muting? I'm getting a lot of feedback.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry. Thank you. Something around essentially public, but publication, access to the public of the audit findings.
Yep. Perfect. Yep.
Sorry, that was extremely convoluted. You can make it sound better.
Yeah. DDOT Connect and with subsequent public access to this to the results of this.
Yeah. And the same as the timeline and budget request too. That should also be public.
Yep. With yes, established with a publicly accessible timeline and budget for prioritization and remediation of all ADA violations, and create a prioritization framework for 311 requests of non-compliant sidewalks with transparent status of work orders. Cool. Nice.
Karthik, this is Sharon. I'm sorry, I'm just saying hello. I've been listening to the whole conversation, and I just wanted to chime in, given the feedback comments here. The part that I think we have a real opportunity to help solve for is there are real ADA non-compliance issues on our streets, and often when taking on capital projects, there is no prioritization for ADA compliance. Whether it's we're going to solve for these sidewalk issues first because we have to be ADA compliant as part of this project, and I think it will really lend to solving for some of these pushback related community issues we often see on major projects around road safety or multimodal accessibility issues. I wonder, so I'm making the comment to say, I wonder if it's possible to also include that ADA compliance has to be prioritized in capital projects. I don't know, just a thought out there.
Yeah, I think that totally makes sense.
And that is our process. And so just wanted to Sharon, we have made a lot of strides in this area to make sure that going forward, our ADA coordinator is included in those conversations, not only in the planning phase, but also at the table right before the bids go out, make sure there weren't any revisions, but then throughout the pre-construction, and to be able to be a part of any conversations, even when there's task orders that change the scope of work. So we are trying to make that adjustment to make sure that our team is included in those conversations at the very, very beginning, of course, during the design and planning phase, but at the implementation of construction is critical too, because to your point, we definitely need to be there at the site to make sure, hey, just a reinforcement and reminder that ADA compliance is a priority in this project, so that we aren't, join the
Right.
project and it's not fully compliant. So
Yeah.
that's a strive
I-
that we all can make it. So having it here is also reinforcement of what we've done to what we want to do too.
I would like to see us live in a world where we aren't fighting for a seat at the table. And so I think the only way you get that is when you codify the requirements into law, the way, you know, we have the opportunity to do when we're saying, you know, as part of this process, the recommendation is that this needs to be addressed as a non-negotiable.
Agreed. Thank
Yep.
you.
Yeah, it's great feedback. Popped it in there. Anything else? Okay, I will make a motion to adopt this resolution. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Yeah.
All in favor of adopting this resolution on ADA sidewalk compliance? I will vote aye.
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 Excellent. I think, Sal, you're the only person who has not yet voted.
He's driving. He might be in a.
You can report your vote later. But yes, so it has passed. We really appreciate it. We are at 7:02. We generally we generally have a little bit of time for public comment, but unfortunately, I think we are out of time for today. Thank you so much for everyone for a great meeting today. Thanks again for your service, Lizzie. We wish you all of the best. As
We'll
you
miss you.
we'll you and as you
Thank
embark
you,
on
everyone.
next adventure, and we will see everyone else on August second Wednesday of August, 5:30 p.m. Same link, maacdc.link/meeting. And otherwise, everyone have a great rest of your July.
Thank you so much.
All
Take
right,
care.
take
So
care.
Thank you
much.
all
Take
too.
care, everyone.
Bye.
Good night.